Welcome to another episode of Not That Hard to Homeschool, the podcast for real people so that you can confidently, competently, and yes, even contentedly provide the high school education that is best for your teens and your family. I'm your host, Lisa Nehring from notthathardtohomeschool.com.
Very good.
Well, hey, everybody, this is Lisa, and I'm so glad you're here for another episode of the podcast. I have with us today a very special guest, Francie Black. Francie has a 20-year progression through tech, product training, product management, software development management, and business management. We're in for a great show today. She was the manager of internet development for a Fortune 500 company in Los Angeles area. And later, as a senior management consultant, she worked with other Fortune 500 companies as well as early stage tech startups. For 6 years, Francie hosted the weekly ABC WLOS News Tech Time segment and syndicated her tech segments to over 100 television stations across the country. You can see hundreds of her TV segments by searching for her name on YouTube. Wow, that's a lot of information right there. In 2014, she founded Home Hacker Camp, which offers robotics and programming courses, camps, and curriculum to youth. You can find it at homehackercamp.com. We'll put that in the show notes. Francie has an undergraduate degree from UNC Charlotte and an MBA from Pepperdine University, and she can be reached at Francie at Homeschool Hacker Camp. So, Francie, I'm so glad you're here today. Thank you for joining us on this episode.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. We found you at a homeschool convention, at one of the great homeschool conventions. So there's still California, I think, and Texas this year. So be sure to go if you're listening. But I think my daughter ran into you and she was so excited. We were just talking about how our husbands are space junkies. And she heard this story about how your son got into working with Starship Engineering. But before we go into some of these fun stories, tell us how you went from all this high-end tech stuff to creating Homeschool Hacker Camp.
Yeah, and it's Home Hacker Camp.
Yes. Home Hacker. I'm sorry. Home Hacker Camp.
Yeah, Home Hacker Camp. And a funny story about the name is sometimes we get caught in spam filters and so forth because we have the name hacker in there.
Oh, that's awesome. Like, not really, but that's funny.
Yeah, right. So we're looking at changing that, but it is homehackercamp.com, homehackercamp.com. But we started this back in 2014. It was myself, actually my husband and my son. And my background was all software development, as you heard. I managed for large corporations and then some early stage startups. But we were in Western North Carolina, and there really wasn't a lot of STEM available in our area, and certainly not high-tech STEM. And that bothered me because I came out of that environment really being on the very forefront of a lot of what was happening in the tech space. From a corporate perspective. And so I wanted my kids, we're a tech-centric household, and I wanted my kids to really be exposed to those skills. And so we developed Home Hacker Camp. And it actually started with my husband was actually working with my kids building cell phones in the basement as a project. And the newspaper got wind of the story. They published a story about us being home hackers. And we said, well, if there's other students that want to learn these types of skills, let us know, and we'll start maybe making it open to other students. And we sure enough, we got a lot of calls saying, hey, my kids would love to do stuff like this. And so we actually started off in the basement of our home and then quickly moved to various schools in the area doing primarily really summer camps, which is how it's Home Hacker Camp. Mm-hmm. We had homeschoolers that were attending our camps. Mm-hmm. And we realized that they are really lacking in the whole STEM space. And so we started making it available as semester-long courses. And we switched from building the cell phones, which was long, complicated, expensive, and hard. So we went to something that was more cost-effective for a broader audience. And so we do the robots and then some other soldering projects and so forth afterwards. But so we're Home Hacker Camp. We do less camps now and actually are doing so much more with homeschoolers, just because the need is there. And my kids have moved out as well, and have my last one, I have 4. My last one just left for college this year. So but anyhow, that's how we got started, but it's been really fun. We've had, I don't know how many homeschool folks come through our program, but it's been fabulous.
I love it. And, I talk about the future of work all the time. And one of the emerging economies is robotics, of course, and AI and all those kind of things, precision economy. And I'm sure that that's really all part of what you're doing with these camps, right?
It is, yes. So our classes really give kids, it's really a computer science and engineering spectrum. So we give kids a full exposure. There are programs that are strictly coding, and
Yeah.
there are programs that are strictly mechanical, and then there's some that are strictly electrical. And we're actually all three of those.
Okay.
So we're working with hardware always. We're
Oh,
always working with software, and then you're always seeing a physical output result. And then in our more advanced classes, then we actually get into building our own devices. So in our classes, one of the unique things is every student gets their own robot. So they're small personal robots. I wish I had one on my desk, but it's downstairs in my studio. but um, but anyhow, each student gets their own robot. That's really a big deal, and they're
yeah.
responsible. They're soldering for those. It is assembly, but you're learning about the parts, the components, the chips, the
Wow.
sensors communicate, all of those things, and then we're coding them to do specific challenges. And
Wow.
so you're always doing coding and working with the hardware and referencing back to the hardware. And then
Hmm.
as you get into our level 3 classes, then we're actually soldering and building our own devices where you're actually soldering onto the controller boards and so forth. So you're doing the same thing, but at the next level
At the
deep.
next level. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have kids who start at the primary level and just move up whatever level after level. They love it so much. I can't imagine
Yeah.
this not being like a real draw for some kids.
Well, most kids love it because it's so hands-on. It's not like typical school work. And when we do our classes, we do them live in person where we live in North Carolina. We do them online, self-paced, where you can
Mhm.
watch the videos and work through it on your own.
Yeah.
And then we do it live via Zoom. But
Hmm.
in all classes, you're not just sitting there staring at a computer and just
Yeah.
coding. You're writing code, but then you're uploading it to your robot, and then you're looking for this physical outcome result.
Hmm.
And we really encourage mistakes.
I love
So
it. I
we
love
don't
that.
we don't tell people, our students, the quote solution up front. We give a lesson and then say, try this objective on your own. And we actually kind of hope it doesn't work the way that
Yeah.
you want it to, because you learn more by making mistakes. And so students become very, very comfortable with that
Mhm.
and working through challenges and troubleshooting and coming up even with alternate ways
Yeah.
of achieving the challenge. And then of course we always walk through a solution and discuss it. But
Yeah. I love that so much. I just did a Facebook Live on friction in education yesterday
oh
because
wow.
I think failure, like you can't grow without friction. That's just how it goes, right? But I think teaching our kids that failure is part of learning and the learning curve, and we need to fail forward.
Yeah. So I don't want to say we mislead our students, but there's sometimes things that look like they would be the obvious choice or solution.
Yeah.
And so I let them do what they think is obvious, but that
Yeah.
isn't what works. And so we don't correct them initially. We want them to see the results
Yeah.
and then figure out what it is and why, because they'll
Right.
ultimately be much better at it next
Yeah.
time around.
It
And
kind of like utilizing the scientific method.
oh yeah, for sure. And I've been told this many times that what students learn in our class actually helps them in a lot of other classes,
Yeah.
because they learn to break things down, think things through, and not be embarrassed or frustrated when it doesn't go exactly like they want. Like it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
that's how life is. That's how any kind of learning that when you're doing deep learning, you do bunny trails that don't really work. They end up being dead ends, and you have to go back and form another hypothesis and test that out. We were talking before we started recording about Elon Musk's willingness to blow up rockets.
exactly, exactly. I don't know if you want me to go into that or not, but my
Yeah, I
son
would
was,
love to.
or
Yeah.
yeah. So my son, the one that I started this program with, I guess almost 10 years ago, um, he was very mechanically inclined. I was more software, and so we combined forces. And he did a lot of our teaching and so forth early on for our summer camps. But fast forward, he graduated from college in aerospace engineering May 1 year ago this month. In
Oh,
fact, about this week,
yeah.
maybe next. Yeah, so literally 1 year ago in aerospace engineering, he went to the University of Colorado Boulder,
Mhm.
Great school, thank you. University of Colorado. And he ended up applying with SpaceX in Boca Chica, Texas, and he got a job working on the Starship rocket that is designed to go to Mars. And so he is a Starship engineer. He
Wow.
works at the facility down there in Texas is called Starbase. And the
Mhm.
project he's working on is the Gateway to Mars project. So
That's amazing. Do you want to share how he got hired? Because I think it's a very interesting story.
oh gosh, well, it's actually kind of a crazy story. My son, he was coming out of college. Well, let me back up. When he was a sophomore in college, he actually got married to his high school sweetheart.
Oh, fun.
And she's a homeschool girl, anyhow, very sweet couple. But anyhow, she was applying to PA school. And my son was working in the Denver area for some aerospace companies, or he was working for one and had worked for others while he was in school as internships. And he had job offers locally, and he was hoping that his wife would get into PA school there. But she did not, but she gets in Rio Grande Valley, Texas, which the only space company in that area is SpaceX.
Yeah.
So on a whim, he applies for SpaceX. So our big joke was they're going to move there because of her schooling. And our big joke was, well, it's either SpaceX or Olive Garden.
Wonderful options.
Those were his two choices. But the breadsticks are pretty good,
They are.
It's not a bad maybe not quite the title of SpaceX, but it's certainly good breadsticks. But nonetheless, after a very long interview process and grueling interviews and presentations that he had to do, he was hired by SpaceX. So our joke is that the whole reason why he got to SpaceX was because of his wife that he married at a very young age.
A good woman can take you far. Let this be it's an adage, I think, right?
Very good, very good, very
I
good.
love it.
Yeah, but he literally works on the rocket. It's getting ready to launch again soon. So just FYI. And your comment that you made about Elon Musk being willing to blow up rockets is exactly what we teach in our class, is that it's called iterative testing. So you do a little bit, you test it, and the result's not going to be, you're not getting to the ultimate goal. You're getting partway to your goal. And then you make corrections to get a little further next time. And then you make a little corrections and you get a little further next time to accomplish whatever the goal is. And that is exactly how Elon Musk works. So when his rockets blow up, especially the ones out of Texas, that's the expectation. Some people think, oh, it was a failed attempt, but it's not. They're getting all that data. And that's how they're able to accomplish so much in such a short amount of time. So it sounds like the process would be longer, but the ability to get to that goal it is significantly faster.
Yeah, and you had called it rapid development work, which I love that idea because I listen to business people all the time, and the ones who are really going fast and far are the ones who are doing rapid development. They don't sit and mull it over, should I do it? They test it, they try it, they regroup. And I think teaching our kids these skills it's transferable skill development is what you're teaching in your program, really. They can take that to any vocational training or any program, college, career, military, and it's going to really help them out no matter what they do. What is your goal for Home Hacker Camp?
Yeah, really, our passion is helping homeschool kids get these very critical skills. Whether you decide to go into this field or not, we've had kids launch into, mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, computer science, electrical engineering, and then some that don't go into those fields at all, but at least they have exposure on understanding how computerized devices work, because it controls our lives, right?
Exactly. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere, and it's not going away. And I just don't want, I think the homeschool kids are very special and unique. They're different than kids that are in school. They learn differently. They're very smart. Most of them are so sweet and respectful. They're just great, sort of committed people. That, I personally want to see these kids, my selfish thing is I want them at the big table, helping make decisions and being part of these teams. But I also, if they don't go that far in that interest, I don't want them to be left behind,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there's three major areas of influence. If you're talking about big picture world thing, and that's, legal, political, and technology. Those are
Mhm.
the three that I think are just super, super critical. And we
Yeah.
really want smart, moral, good people. Not that other kids that aren't homeschooled don't fall in
Yeah.
that category, because they do too. But I don't want homeschool kids to be left out of that. Let me put it
Yeah.
that way.
That's
And
that's
so
fantastic. Yeah.
so that's why we do what we do. And there's semester classes.
Mhm.
They're not small projects. It's a learning process. And we just take you deeper and deeper as you progress through our program.
So can you tell us just really briefly, I know you do the robotics. Are you doing other things too, like with the phone anymore? Or yeah, just tell us a little bit
yeah,
about some of the projects.
yeah. Well, I did for many years, 6 years. I did tech segments for a local ABC affiliate. But then I also did it for a bunch of other TV stations across the country. I don't do that anymore. It actually stopped with COVID.
Oh,
I couldn't go into the studio
yeah.
anymore to record, and I didn't repick that up post COVID. I would love to do that. It is a big, huge time commitment, and it is pretty hard to get that ramp up started again. But
Mhm.
so I'm not doing so much in that particular area anymore. And then the robotics and programming is actually picking up because my kids are now out of school. My fourth one just left for college this past fall, and so we're expanding our reach. Is
Mhm.
basically, we have been pretty regional. We've been primarily on the East Coast, and that's really just a limitation of my time and availability.
Yeah.
But now that with my kids out and I no longer have the other commitment, we are expanding
Yeah.
outside of our region this year. So
Mhm.
I see it growing a lot, actually.
Yeah.
There is one thing that we are doing a little bit different this year. This summer, we are offering some, not related to the robotics and programming, but I've had quite a few of our families ask for other tech classes, just like really core
Yeah.
fundamental classes like intro to computing, which is
Yeah.
not keyboarding, but having to do with um, understanding, um,
How to
just
organize your files.
yeah, just even, I see it all the time in our classes. Kids don't understand save versus save
Yes.
as, don't understand memory versus storage. They
Yeah.
don't understand, troubleshooting. They don't understand how the search system works, or,
Yeah.
the structure of those things. And so we're testing out, here we go, in terms of testing, a single, session. Our
Mhm.
robotics classes are full semester, but this summer we're offering an hour and a half class on intro to computing. So memory versus storage, file structure, all of those things to give you that sort of confidence for moving around. Not that you can't do it without, but it's just like it makes everything run smoother when you understand those things.
Right.
And then so we're doing that one. We're also doing an intro to website development, so students can make a one or two page website, and then following that, using free software, and then following that, we're doing another 1.5 hour session of intro to spreadsheets. We're using
Cool.
Google Sheets for this, but how to analyze data, sort, conditional highlighting,
Yeah.
filtering, and using, again, just kind of core, not super hard, but if you don't know it, it's a fast way to get up to speed
Yeah.
on those topics, and just to, again, give you that so you're not pinking around so much, like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. It's like it
Yeah.
gives you that structure. It condenses a lot of time into a
Yeah. And the other thing for some of us who we weren't born into the computer age, we kind of like got thrown into it at a
right, right,
certain
right.
age. And we're
Yeah,
like, I know I've done that before, but where do I find it again?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. Yeah, and I'm like that sometimes too. If when I haven't used something, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well,
But
and
even
there's so many applications. And I mean, I didn't go through college. We didn't have computers when I went through college. And now I'm on computers and apps and different programs all day long. And I know one really well, and I go to another one. And it's like, I know it has this capability, but I literally don't know even how to go through finding it. So, I
exactly.
mean, I think these are really helpful classes for everybody. They should be foundational.
That's what I think. I think they really should be foundational. I think all kids should sort of be required to do that. What's funny is I've had a ton of the parents actually say, I would really like to take
I
that
was going to
class.
ask, are you doing adult ones? Honestly.
Yeah. Well, I would say any adult is more than welcome to take these classes. Again, this is an experiment for us.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's outside of our primary, but we've just had so many questions about it that
Yeah.
we're going to offer it a single, it's an hour and a half per session. They're all kind of intro. I don't want to call them intro, but just core content.
Yes.
I don't want to say, we're not going to say click here.
Yeah.
It's core content to make you be able to function better and easier.
Yes.
That's really what it is on those topics. The last one I want to mention too, which is interest to a lot of the students, is an intro to 2D animation class.
Ooh, very cool. Yeah.
And my daughter is a third year. Actually, she's getting ready to finish up her third year at Savannah College of Art and Design in 2D animation.
Yeah.
And so she's going to teach a intro to 2D animation class this summer. So if there's any students that are interested in that, check out our summer classes.
Okay, I'll put the links for people to find. I just want to have one, I mean, I know we've kind of gone a little bit long here, but question about what you would say to families who consider themselves low tech, and I don't want to get in, I know you do a whole thing on internet safety, and I don't really want to necessarily have that whole discussion at this point. Maybe we could have you back to do it, but how do you address those parents who are like, we're a low tech family, I'm concerned about all the nefarious activity online, and we live in such a tech world. I mean, it's not going away. This is the reality.
Well, I kind of say we're the solution for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good, succinct answer.
Yeah, really. I say that's why we're here. And I even get a lot of that particular scenario that you just described. I'm not a tech family. This is out of my wheelhouse. I can't teach it, but my kid's dying to know it, or I want my kid to know it.
Yeah.
And so, but I can't teach it. Can you do it? And so that's what we do. And so I feel like we're filling that need. And then the other big group of people that we get is a lot of the engineering dads that they want to teach it, but they don't have the structure or the curriculum to put you through a path or the patience.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, but they want their kids to get started in classes. So I get a lot of both of those groups. And then there's everything in between as well.
Yeah.
Like they have some experience, but they want their kids to have more, or
and I think this is for homeschool families. We did Lego League for a few years, and it's such a brilliant program. But if you don't have a group locally and you don't have the bandwidth to start one, this is a phenomenal solution where your kids they've got a challenge, they're doing the programming, and they've got hardware. I mean, it's a package.
It is a package, and you can do it if you do the self-paced class. You can do it on your own schedule. You don't have to coordinate with other people. You don't have the cost of a league or the administration time. So it's a much more, and I think those are great programs. I'm not knocking those at all, at all. And so I think if you can get involved with one of those and you have the resources and the time to do it, I think those are great. And I think our class supplements those, like it gives those kids skills. A big thing is, I mean, I could talk about it all day long, but a lot of the Lego stuff, or even the other, like my son did first robotics.
Yeah.
But, a lot of the kids don't even touch the robot, or they touch it minimally, or they touch it minimally because either one, somebody else on the team is doing it, or two, I saw a ton, not necessarily with my son's group, but the surrounding groups, was that the parents are doing a ton of the work in the building. So.
Let's face it, it's fun.
It's fun.
I mean,
we all love it. But the kids, they can be on a team and never touch the robot.
Right. Exactly.
And again, I think those programs are great, and I'm not knocking them at all. If you have, again, the time, the exposure, the money, the access to it, for it. But this meets a different need. This is a class. It count as credit. Semester long class. Every student gets their own robot. It's theirs to keep. They're doing everything on it. They're doing all the hardware, they're doing all the software. And then when it crashes, they're responsible for that crash and to recode it into.
I love it. I love it. So many soft skills you're teaching with this too. We talked about this really quickly. It's something we talk about all the time, is your kids definitely need soft skills going into this high tech world that we live in a global centric society. I mean, really, our kids are going to be competing globally. And so having soft skills like communication, critical thinking, collaboration and creativity, which your program incorporates all of those things so very beautifully.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, we enjoy it. We have a really good time. We don't put stress on kids. It's really designed to learn in a fun way without being, hammered with.
Yeah.
Really what we're looking for is effort and attention and the ability to try and retry.
I love
And
it.
that's really our focus,
Yeah.
and in a non-intimidating way.
Yeah. Quick question on the self-paced classes. Do you do the grading? Do the kids come away with a grade for that class?
We don't grade. You can see a progress bar to see that they've gone through all the lessons. So if they've gone through all the lessons, I give them an A. And it's
Okay.
not necessarily that
Yeah.
they accomplish the task. Some kids really want hyper precision.
Yeah.
And then other kids kind of get a task or a challenge and they'll go, oh, good enough. You know what? And I'm really okay with that.
Yeah.
I really want them to have that exposure and to start developing those critical thinking skills and problem solving skills. That's really our with against the programming. So that's really what we're looking for. So the parent can give that grade, but if they've gone through it, you can see all that progress. You can see that they've actually completed it. And now if they've done 10%, then I wouldn't give them a
Yeah.
But if they've gone through the whole class, I think they deserve a
Yeah.
lot, because it's got 100 videos. It's a lot of material. It's
Wow.
it's a full semester class, and you're doing not only videos, but then you're doing challenges while the videos are paused.
Yeah.
And just in terms of ages and grades, so our self-paced, we have a huge variety of ages and grades that take our classes. So the self-paced class is any grade, any age. Okay. And we have older kids that take it that have had zero exposure. And then we get these engineering dads that want to start their kids hyper young. There's a huge range. If you're younger, maybe you don't go as far as deep or as fast. Okay. And don't expect that ultra precision. But if you're older, then maybe you do,
Yeah.
So, but it's what I've seen in our classes, and it's very interesting. Age has little to do with it. How well somebody, and I don't want to use the word well, how quickly they grasp the concepts. It's nothing to do with smarts. It has nothing to do with age. It really has to do with their exposure.
Yeah.
And so kids that have been around some of this tend to pick it up a little bit more, a little quicker, a little faster, can go a little deeper. But I can have older kids with no exposure. So I can have a younger kid with some exposure that will work faster than a high schooler. Okay.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's its whole own language, and I mean, it's its own culture in a way. If you think about it, you've got to have some exposure to even know the basic vocabulary of it.
Exactly. So I try to tell people, don't worry about age or grade. It's what works for you and your child. But if you haven't had it, whether it be our class or something else, I strongly encourage to learn these skills at some level, just to be exposed to it. And you may or may not go into that as a career. If you do, fabulous. We've had many go into the related careers, and others don't, and that's okay. But you have that exposure and you understand what's going on. So everybody starts at a different, it's really dependent. Everybody starts at different stages of life.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm really excited to share this product and your company with the wider homeschool community. Again, it's Home Hacker Camp. We'll put the link in the show notes. And Francie, thank you so much. Don't forget to go check out her YouTube videos, because she got a lot of tech information right there for you for free. And you're going to be impressed. It's been delightful to talk to you. And thanks for coming on the podcast. If you guys have any questions for Francie, you can let me know and I'll pass those on to her. But be sure to go to Home Hacker Camp and find out all the great classes she's offering, both self-paced and online, and then her summer camps.
Yep, very good. Thanks so much for having me, Lisa. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. You too.